Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Deaconess Elizabeth, and it is Thursday, June the 1st, and I'm here again for your daily devotions. Today, our devotions come from Luke, the 23rd chapter, and we are going to start at the first verse, so if you'd like to follow along, you may turn there now. Then the whole assembly rose and led him off to Pilate, and they began to accuse him, saying, "We have found this man subverting our nation. He opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be Christ, a king." So Pilate asked Jesus, "Are you the king of the Jews?" "Yes, it is as you say," Jesus replied. Then Pilate announced to the chief priests and the crowd, "I find no basis for a charge against this man." But they insisted, "He stirs up the people all over Judea by his teaching. He started in Galilee and has come all the way here." On hearing this, Pilate asked if the man was a Galilean. When he learned that Jesus was under Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, who was also in Jerusalem at that time. When Herod saw Jesus, he was greatly pleased because for a long time he had been wanting to see him. From what he had heard about him, he hoped to see him perform some miracle. He plied him with many questions, but Jesus gave him no answer. The chief priests and the teachers of the law were standing there, vehemently accusing him. Then Herod and his soldiers ridiculed and mocked him. Dressing him in an elegant robe, they sent him back to Pilate. That day Herod and Pilate became friends. Before this they had been enemies. Pilate called together the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and said to them, "You brought me this man as one who was inciting the people to rebellion. I have examined him in your presence and have found no basis for your charges against him. Neither has Herod, for he sent him back to us. As you can see, he has done nothing to deserve death. Therefore, I will punish him and then release him." With one voice they cried out, "Away with this man! Release Barabbas to us." Barabbas had been thrown into prison for an insurrection in the city and for murder. Wanting to release Jesus, Pilate appealed to them again, but they kept shouting, "Crucify him! Crucify him!" For the third time he spoke to them. "Why? What crime has this man committed? I have found in him no grounds for the death penalty. Therefore I will have him punished and then release him." But with loud shouts they insistently demanded that he be crucified, and their shouts prevailed. So Pilate decided to grant their demand. He released the man who had been thrown into prison for insurrection and murder, the one they asked for, and surrendered Jesus to their will. All right, so this is a continuation of our reading from yesterday, and we have Jesus being led off to Pilate, and they accuse Jesus of saying that he opposes payment of taxes to Caesar and claims to be the Christ. Well, we know from past readings that when they asked Jesus about is it right to pay taxes to Caesar, he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's. And Pilate continues to question Jesus, and he asks him if he is the king of the Jews, and Jesus says, "It is as you say." And so Pilate did not see any reason to charge him based on any of the questions he had asked him. And when he hears that Jesus is a Galilean, he decides to send him off to Herod, because that is Herod's jurisdiction. And so he's like, "I'm going to send him to Herod. He's not going to be my problem. He's going to be Herod's problem." And Herod had hoped to see Jesus perform some miracles, so he was excited to see him. He was excited to see Jesus for all the wrong reasons. He didn't see Jesus as the Christ, just saw him as some miracle worker. But Jesus didn't even answer any of the questions that Herod asked him, let alone perform any miracles in front of Herod. So they mocked Jesus and gave him an elegant robe and then sent Jesus back to Pilate. And here is where Luke tells us that Herod and Pilate become friends that day, and before they had been enemies. So neither Herod nor Pilate found any basis for the charges against Jesus. So Pilate wanted to just punish Jesus and send him away. So he again asks the crowd if he can release Jesus, and they reply back with wanting Barabbas to be released. Now, Barabbas is a murderer and an insurrectionist, and they insisted that Barabbas be released, and they insisted that Jesus be crucified. And so Pilate concedes to their wishes, and that is where we leave off in our readings, as tomorrow we will continue with the crucifixion and Jesus carrying his cross to Calvary. So again, that is our reading for today. Our hymn today is going to be hymn 525, Crown Him with Many Crowns, and we're going to sing the third verse. Crown him the Lord of love, behold his hands and side, rich wounds yet visible above, in beauty glorified. No angels in the sky can fully bear that sight, but downward bend their wondering eyes at mysteries so bright. And we'll conclude with the Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Well, thank you for joining me for today's daily devotion on today, this Thursday. Just a few announcements for this upcoming week. We have next week, our youth night will be at its normal time at 6 p.m. and our normal activity is on Thursday. Next Saturday, not this coming Saturday, but Saturday, June the 10th, we have a couple events. We have our men's breakfast at 8 a.m. A Sprouts group is meeting at 1 p.m. And then the going away party for me is in the evening at 6:30. If you have not RSVP'd yet, please do so. Send that to Pastor, and I believe Pastor is also looking for some pictures of my time here. So if you have pictures, please email those to him so he can do what he needs to do with those. Also, we are collecting some nice items for Claire, our incoming deaconess intern, things like tissues, cleaning supplies, just things to help her get started in her apartment once she comes down here. So if you are willing to donate or participate in that, we have a pile started in Nice Hall for those items. Also, VBS again is coming up June the 12th through the 15th. We also have a donation list. We have that board out front in the narthex of things that we need for crafts for VBS. If you'd like to volunteer your time, you may still do that. If you would like to register your kiddos for VBS, you can still do that. The registration link is found in our newsletter and on our Facebook pages. And then the Sunday before VBS, so June the 11th, we will be spending time decorating the sanctuary and our fellowship hall for VBS. So if you're able to spend an extra 30 minutes after church on the 11th, we would greatly appreciate your help then. I believe those are the announcements that I have for today, so I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your Thursday.